guys, hi there, Gary here for GenVFX. Welcome back. I've missed you so much. I've been very busy the last month writing, as I think if you're a follower of the tutorials, you will know that last month was November and I was trying to do NaNoWriMo. I say trying. I didn't succeed. I came pretty close, but I didn't succeed. But that's okay, because that's what life is for. You give it a go. If you don't do it, don't worry. Just carry on. But I have got somewhere well with it, and I will continue writing whilst I am going through the rest of my life. But for now, let's get back to tutorials. And today we're going to be talking about, well, it's seasonal. You know, it's beginning to look a little bit like Christmas. I wouldn't say a lot. But my family just put up the Christmas tree, and there are lots of lights on all the houses around where I live now. So I'm sitting in my office, and I'm looking right out the window. The blinds up. It's pitch black. But I can see tinkling lights on some of the houses across the way. Anyone who walks, by the way, from a house right now will just see me talking into my microphone. I don't care. It's fine. As you can tell, I haven't spoken to anyone for ages. It's so nice to see you all. Anyway, but today, because it is kind of seasonal, what we're going to do is I am going to build a dreidel, and then I'm going to spin that dreidel. So let's begin on the spin of the dreidel. So first things first, if you look at a dreidel, it's a four-sided spinning top is basically what it is. So it has a kind of it's got this, it's like a rectangular block of wood that's then been carved off. So we've got that kind of like pencil-y kind of arcing in the wood. So the best way to do this, I found in my own little trials, is to basically create a UV sphere, and it has got enough sides, I would say. Yeah, it definitely got enough sides. And I am going to, first things first, because I do like having wireframe visible. Just going to do that. Let's go to the side view. And I'm going to move this up. Let's go GZ. Just lift it up to about there. And I am now going to go SZ, and I'm going to scale it upwards, because I want to be able to have this part here. This is the bit that I want, this bit, sort of like here, so I can create an arc kind of like here. Actually, very quickly, I'm also going to put on, because this has been suggested to me on more than one occasion. There you go. Let's leave the screencasting on. That's nice. And let's get rid of you now. Go, goodbye. And I'm going to very quickly go into Tab and select that point. I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to press O, so I've got proportional scaling on, just so I lift it up a little bit with those edges. There you go. That's better. So it's a little bit more pointy on, just a teeny tiny bit more pointy on top. And let's now go back to object mode, and I'm going to create, I got rid of it, didn't I? I always get rid of the default cube and I always regret it. No, I don't. I hate it. So I'm going to bring up a cube like this. I'm going to scale this down. So let's go S, and then what we're going to do, so if I push this up, you'll see this bit here. These are the arcs that you kind of get in the shape, but we don't want the arcs on this side, really. We kind of want the arcs on the inside, on the bit that's there. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to cut this away. So we have this rectangular section here. So I'm going to scale this down until it reaches almost the constraints of those edges. So let's just bring this down here a little bit more. Like that, that's fine. Now the top's sticking out, so let's go to edit mode and just pick that polygon. There we go. And lift that up. And I'm going to do something I don't do very often, because I don't completely think it's trustworthy, but actually it's a lot better than I give it credit for. I'm going to do a Boolean operation. So I'm going to pick this sphere, and let's go to the modifiers, lovely modifiers, Boolean. And I want to do the intersect between that and that. So I'm going to now immediately apply that and get rid of that square. So what we have is kind of like that, the spinny part of the dreidel, and you can see we've got some funny edges because of the way we've done this a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, right, I just want to get rid of some of these faces, because each one of these XY edges, they're just not necessary for what we need to do at the minute. We can always get them back later. So I'm going to go quickly to top view, and if I just want to keep one of these sides in essence, so I'll go back to top view. I'm going to go here, and let's delete those faces. Let's delete those faces, and then I want to take it out. So go to the top, and I want to delete I'm gonna just, let's try and do this. I'm just gonna go Alt Z to make things a little bit more easy. There we go. Delete you. I'm gonna delete all of you down to here. There we go. I was using a Maya shortcut then, so I must stop doing that. Actually, ironically, I was thinking about this today. So I'm just doing this, I'll just tell you. And I remember when I first started using Blender, at first it was kind of like I'm always doing Maya things. And then 1 or 2 times I noticed that when I was going back to Maya, I was actually trying to use the shortcuts from Blender. Oh yeah, yeah, cross-pollination. I was definitely crossing the streams that day. But you know, sometimes when it works, it's just great. It does just work. Back into object mode, there you go. So we've got 1/4. We therefore can do stuff to this and then make an array and spin it around. So we actually get you know, the actual top back. But it means we can just do a certain number of edits and changes to this, and it means that we don't have to try and do it twice. So I've got here some points which I don't need, but I also need to make sure I still have that kind of like shape. So that I want this basically to go down to here and merge in. So I'm going to go that one, then that one. I'm going to press M and then L, so that merges down to the last one there. I'm going to do the same here. M, I pick those two, pick that one, go M, go M, pick that one, and then that one. Do it again. Press M and then L, so that merges to the last point. And I'm going to add some verts here. Let's go to the knife tool. I'm going to go that up to there and to there, like that. Which means I can then go here to this edge, that one there, and that one there. Control Delete and get rid of those, and that little vertex that was in there as well. You can't see that now, gone, you see. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to press G a couple of times and move it down there a little bit. And then pick these two, I'm going to go G, move this up, and actually I'm going to go G and move that up as well. So we've actually got them, we're moving them away from this edge a little bit. Don't get them quite so close, let's just do that down a tiny bit. There you go. Move these arms up a tiny bit, try and make it a little nice bit of an arc. Yeah, that's nice. And now what I need to do is take that to that and go ML, merge to the last, and that one to there, and go ML and merge to the last. So that's, we've kind of got almost what we want. Let's just now divide these up so we've got even more quads, just to make this nice and tidy, because we like nice and tidy. And there we go. That isn't quite straight. I can live with it. I'm going to pick that one there though, and if we look, this is one of the nice things about vertices, we can position them correctly, because if you hit the N key and go to item, you can see where they should all be in 0. In fact, that one also, so that one is at 0, those were not. So each one of these can be moved and then put back by just changing the value. Yep, so that's great. Didn't want to do that. So let's move this back so we can see this. So all that's there. That's one nice clean little quarter. So now we've got that sorted. Let's go over here and we're going to put an array modifier, and immediately it's a relative offset of 1, which means 1 of the width of your object across in the X. I'm just going to set that to 0. You'll see that went a little bit thicker in color because obviously it's kind of got loads and loads. It's got 2, so we've got 1, it's got 2, 3, 4. Let's just make it 4 because we need 4. And I want this to be frozen in place because that is, we need them frozen in place so that they don't mess around when you do the array changes. It has to say relative to the origin. So go object and we go apply and we go all transforms. So now you see that the object's origin is now back at the world center, and now I can add something in this for this to be edited by, because we've got it on, we're going to put it onto object offset, not relative offset. So let's add into here an empty, so there's a plane axis. And then if we go back to our object, I can say I want this to be affected by whatever I do to this base object. So now if I push this, I'm moving the sphere. If I take the empty and I move the empty, you'll see that they all move with that empty. So the first one's going kind of, you know, approximately with it. And the other ones are all going in relative to it. So it also means that if I rotate this, you'll see that they'll all rotate off like this, which is actually a lovely animation tool. The array can produce some really lovely effects. But that's what we wanted to do. What we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to rotate that by 90 degrees. And we're basically just putting our top back as it should be. you can see there. What we've also got on here, if we go back to the sphere, we've actually set it, let's set it to merge, there we go, and then set it to be 0.02, something like that. So in theory they will have all merged. We'll find out if they haven't, I can promise you that. And then let's just go apply. So that's now there, and they're empty. I can get rid of them, we don't need that anymore. So here we have our merged object, and you can see there's kind of this little points on the edge here. That's really quite good actually. We could have actually merged all those to one point. I'm very tempted to. In fact, you know what? I think I just very quickly will, because that will actually help, I think, if we do. So let's go M and then at center, and then let's move over here and go M, whoops, go M at center. Is that not done? Is there a one there? What's going on? What the heck? Something is afoot. I'm going to remove all the doubles, basically. It doesn't not call that anymore, but basically what it does, it looks at points that should be on top of each other, and are not merged, and merge them together. So with that, we need to go into object mode. We're going to edit all of those, go A, and we're going to go mesh. I'm going to clean up, and we're going to say merge by distance. Okay, and that distance down here, you can see is 0.001. So it's 0.001, let's make it that, that's better. And now if I go to edit mode, when I select these vertices down here, they will now merge. So let's go, let's check this for efficacy. Merge at center, yes. Merge at center, yes. Merge at center, oh, beautiful. And then merge at center, there we are. They're all merged at the center. And let's get to our edges, and let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to go extrude in the Z like this. And you can probably see now we're getting that sort of like Dreidel shape where we have all our symbols on the sides. And we've also got a nice sharp top there. So yes, here we are with our lovely Dreidelish shape. I'm just going to fill that hole, press an F. That fills that hole. And then we'll get the knife tool, and we'll just very quickly with the knife tool, let's just go from there to there. Make a cut. From there to there, make a cut, and then go from there to there to there, and then we can go from there to there to there, make a cut. And I'm going to just very quickly do this as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which gives us 8 vertices when they're all combined together. And we're going to we're now going to go to the faces. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to go with the loop tools which we've got on and go circle, and that creates a nice little circle. And I'm going to scale this in, maybe a little bit too small, let's make it a bit bigger, and I'm going to extrude it up like this, and I will move that even a little bit higher again, like that. And I'm going to just take all of these vertices here, I think. Let's just make it all these vertices here. I'm going to move these down, I think, or should I? I don't know now. I'm confused. I've got it upside down, obviously. We'll sort that out in a second. Let's just have a very quick. I'm sorry. I'm faffing now. I've become very good at faffing, particularly when it came to the writing for NaNoWriMo. Oh, I'll just going to faff for a bit longer. I think I'm just going to faff for just another couple of hours, and then I'll start writing. Yeah, I'll just end up faffing, which is exactly what I did. So I'm going to select those. Let's go here and select those faces. Let's go here and select those faces. Scale down this. Let's go SZ and move that up there like that. That's better. Yeah, and let's move these up. There we go. We can always come back to this bit here, but now we have essentially a spinny dreidel. At least it will be. I'm just going to pull those down a bit. Not quite happy with that. There we go. Lovely. There we have our dreidel upside down. So we need to fix that now, and then I'm going to come back to it because we're going to make a very quick change to it before we start doing the animation. We're moving forward, so we're getting things going. I'm pleased with this. I'm stoked. It's getting good. And I am going to go into edit mode. I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go RX 180 like this. Let's go to the side view, and let's move this down so it's touching the bottom like that. Go back to edit mode, and we can see it looks like it was a bit rough. That's not very good, is it? Yeah, well, I'm going to make some changes to this. Don't worry, we're going to make a lot more information, make a bit more detail here, because we're going to do a little bit of beveling. Beveling is great. The actual modifier for bevel is even better. We do that, you can kind of see, woo, we're getting exactly what we want. In fact, that is insane. That's almost done exactly what I wanted. I thought it was going to do a lot of messing around with that. That's just using angle. If we reduce the angle, you can see it does it absolutely everywhere. If you increase the angle, it says, right, I'm happy with doing the bevel on certain angle, anything above 11 degrees, 12 degrees, anything above 13 degrees, that has beveled, and that is oh, I can't believe that's happened so easily. That normally takes me, the last time I did it, it took me a pain of a time to sort out the actually weight balancing, but that's done it exactly where I wanted it. I actually did it by using weight rather than angle, but that's pucker. I'm chuffed with that. Right, and then it's just, I'm going to bring down the amount a little, although don't do it too much. I'm going to push that angle up a bit more, just to remove some of the others that are there. Yeah, that'll be fine. And that's gone nice and round. In fact, that's done some lovely stuff there. Very, very, very odd. Was not expecting that. That's great. Yeah, let's look at that. You see, look, that's actually worked out quite well. Well, roast me. And I am now I'm going to apply that. And I'm going to add a subdivision surface to this. And that basically will give us the sort of nice dreidely stuff. Let's set that to shade auto smooth, sorry. And that looks like a dreidel. I'm going to save this now before I forget. Here we go. Name 174 dreidel make spin. That's a good name for it, isn't it? Let's make a new folder in there, and we'll call it Blender Scenes. Do this, and we're going to call it Dreidel 001. There we go. I'm not going to worry about texturing it for now. That's not really the point of this exercise, even though obviously I do need to get all the symbols on, and I will. But for the point of this, let's get on with the rest of it, because that's kind of the build of it. You saw how it worked. In fact, let's have a little quick. Let's go to the rendering. Let's do some very, very quick shading. Let's look down the camera view. That's not right, is it? And let's add in a mesh plane for a floor. Let's go there, and let's go S10 just to make it nice and big. Pull out of this, and then we go to the camera, and we're going to go to view. We're going to click on camera to view, as we always do, and scale that and pull that down and there. And I'm going to very quickly put a very, very quick shader on this. I'm going to make a very quick wood shader, and this, of course, is going to be really, I mean, it is going to be messy. I'm going to pick, now where is it? It is the wave texture. There you go. And I'm going to add a color ramp in here. So that's a converter, even though it's a color, it's in the converter section. Always has been, always will be, unless they decide, hey, it's colors. So put the color into the factor there, and then put that color into the base color. And we should start to, there you go. So we start to get some waves. Well, we get bands. Let's make it rings. There we go. Let's increase the scale. Let's distort this a bit. Let's increase the detail. Let's do the detail scale. Oops. There. Detail roughness down. And I think we can change that to Z. Is that the one I want to put it in? Yes. There you go. So that feels more like it's a little block of wood, but then of course the colors aren't quite right. So let's just do this. And move that to there. And as I say, not too overly fussed right now of making it perfectly correct in terms of its realism. A little bit correct would be nice. So let's just do this. That orangey one now feels a little bit too orangey. Let's move that there and then bring that up. There we go. So that's nice and kind of woodish. And then we'll just very quickly, we will reduce the roughness, increase the specular, and then we'll take this texture, and I'm just going to very quickly go into vector bump, and we'll take the factor of this, stick that in the height of the normal, stick that in the normal, and then that will go, look at the size of that devilish thing. There you go. And that's horrible. So we set that to 0.1, and then we've got a little bit of something. Let's make that, and let's make that. There we go. 0.1. We'll do that. And then we'll click on invert. Yes, there you go. That's lovely. Success. So now we have a very basic dreidel. I'm just going to save that as well. And now we're going to go into the animation side of this. Now, last time I did this, it crashed. Just want to warn you. But what we're going to do is going to add some drivers with expressions onto some controllers. Now, when you spin a dreidel, when you spin anything, that is designed to spin, it spins very fast, but it also kind of like wobbles a little bit just because of inconsistencies in the surface that it's on, and also because of just the factor of the shape itself. So it's had a little bit of a wibbly wobbly, and then it also moves around. Now, if you were to try and do that by using just the dreidel itself, I'd do that massive spin and then an off axial sort of like wobble, and then the movement of it, it would kind of be a bit difficult because you've got a lot of things that you want to do to translation and rotation axes. So you don't do it that way. What you do is you do separate objects, which are essentially in a tiering system, which you assign the dreidel to. Let me explain. That doesn't help, but I'll explain. I'll do it by actually doing it. That makes the most sense, doesn't it? So if I'm going to go here, I'm going to move this one over a little tad because we don't need to see too much of that. But I am going to need the animation window at some point. This graph editor. And so, in fact, that's a dope sheet, isn't it? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add into here an empty. I'm going to add a plane axis. Now I'm going to basically just create a collection, and I'm going to call it anim. So I can put all of these bits that I need into here. I'm going to pull in the empty, and I'm going to call this spin D, because I'm going to be spinning the big dreidely D. And that's good, so I can use this. I can parent or constrain this to this spinning thing and make it spin. Okay, I'm then going to create another empty. I'm going to make it look a bit different. Let's create the arrows. And this one, which is already in the collection because that's the one I was in, I'm going to call this one wobble D. And I'm going to create one more. And I'm going to create an empty that's a circle. It's upright. I don't want it upright. I want it flat. So I'm going to set the rotation on the X to 90, like this, because it doesn't really matter, because I'm not using it for rotation. Otherwise, I'd end up with some sort of gimbal lock. If you don't know what gimbal lock is, it's where you've got so many rotations that are happening on one joint that you reach a point where you can't actually move it in certain directions because each one's reached the maximum constraint they can go in. That's a gimbal lock. That's why we do things like this on separate elements that we move together. If you actually go to Gumroad and download my Betacam that's in there for Blender, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. That's got 7 different empties in kind of each one a child of the other, and each one does a different thing. So one does rotation, one does tilt, one does spin, one does a yaw, one does a roll, but independently you're basically moving. You can move a camera absolutely anywhere you want with that rig, and it'll always look at the point that is your main animation point. This kind of does the same thing with the dreidel, but with just a couple of rotation things. So let's carry on. This final empty, I'm going to call transform D. But so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my dreidel, which is still called sphere, and let's call it dreidel. And I've spelled it correctly. I'm going to create a new collection, and I'm going to call that Geo. I'm going to take the dreidel, I'm going to drop it into Geo, and I'm now going to save this as dreidel rig, just because it makes sense to do that. The dreidel is the model. This is going to be a rigged version of the dreidel. So we want the dreidel to basically be spun by spin D. So we say the dreidel is going to be the child of spin D. So pick the dreidel, go down here to the little geary thing, which is the object constraint properties, and over here go child of. Now at the moment it doesn't say it's a child of anything, but I'm going to select this. I'm going to go spin D. I can also, if I disconnect that, I can also just click in here and it'll give you everything that's in your scene, cameras, lights, the works, spin D. So if I go to spin D now, and if I just let's bring this up, if I can transform this, I'm moving that, but it's taking the dreidel with it, which is what I mean by an object constraint. But what this means is I can now also do this. I can say, I can spin this in the Z, but then I want that to have a wobble as well. So this is where we go, right, so I want spin D to be the child of wobble. So let's pick wobble. There we go. So now I can take that's moving spin D, but if I take wobble and move that, you can see it's also moving spin D and the dreidel. Okay. Let's go back to spin D. I'm just going to set that Z to 0. And the reason why we want the wobble is so we can do this and do that. Yeah, we're just translating things on the X and the Y, rotating things on the X and the Y. When it comes to translating, we want wobble to be animated by transform D. So we click on wobble and we go object constraint here, child of, and then we go here and we go transform D. So now everything is literally connected together. So if I take spin D and I move that there, and I take wobble and I move that there, I can then take transform and I can move that, and they're all there. But the thing is, we don't want to do anything with the transformations on spin and wobble. These are just for rotation. The transform, that one, is to move it around, so we can animate its actual position. So let's go file save. So really and truly, that's kind of rigged. It is, it's kind of rigged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take spin D. So now let's save this one as Dreidel rig anim. That sounds daft, but it's kind of, I kind of like that this is Dreidel rig being animated. And we're going to have that as version 1 as well, like that, and go save as. Now, obviously, all of this sits in one scene. If you were doing this in a production, you'd probably have the Dreidel rig as a reference object that you bring in, you refer to as a linked object, and then work with it, or as an asset object and then work with it. And hopefully all the things that you have built into that asset come across, like all the controllers, because we're going to do something now, which means that I'm going to have to put expressions in this to actually animate certain things, because I don't want to be animating all this stuff myself. Especially because in this instance we're going for that whole sort of like Inception-y kind of thing. We want a Dreidel that doesn't tell you whether you get all the cash. No, I'll pay half the cash. Just sorry. I actually love the idea of this Dreidel game. I think it's fine. I think everybody, I don't care what religion you are, everybody should play this. It sounds epic. So, and I can imagine just people getting so frustrated. Really suits my put. I really like that. So I just want to mess with the rotation here. Now I don't want to have to animate this rotation. I just want it to do the rotation. Simple as that. So what I need to do is I need to add a driver. Now a driver in Blender is like an expression in After Effects or an expression in Maya. Essentially it's using mathematics to give you animation. So I could say, right, whenever I push this thing 1 unit to the X, I want it to rotate 90 degrees in the Y. That's the kind of thing. But we're not doing anything like that. We're not actually driving it. We are using it to create an expression, but you can use it. They're called drivers, but they're expressions and drivers. So let's go into here, go Z, and we're going to go add a driver. Now, you can see this little panel here. This panel, as soon as I move my cursor off it, will vanish. There it goes. It's infuriating, but we have a little purple gap here, which means that still is saying I have a driver. I don't know what it is yet, but I have a driver. We right click on it again and we go edit driver and we get a little window up. But what I recommend you do is go open driver editor, and then this will appear, and this is actually what you really want. This is what we're talking about. Now this has all sorts of things, F-curve information, which is fun for your animation, and we'll come back to that, modifiers and all sorts. So essentially this Blender driver editor is a glorified graph editor, and it's wonderful. In fact, it should really be. I actually do believe the driver section should be integral in the graph editor. I also believe that if you right click on something and you bring up a little window, you should have an option to get rid of it rather than it just vanish straight away. I think all software needs to do that. That happens in Maya. It happens in all of them. But this is great because you can't get rid of this until you click that window there. So we're looking here and we're looking at our the Z Euler rotation here. Let's go back to the drivers, you can see, and it says here it's a scripted expression, and then there's the expression, which is var plus 0, and then here is essentially the variable itself. If you're writing an expression in any programming software, you have to call the expression first and say, I have a variable and it equals this, before you can use it. But in this driver property window, you basically say, I've got the expression up here and it uses this variable that does this here. So, okay, fine. And I just don't need this. I don't need this. All I want to do is put an expression in here which is based on time. I want to use time, but I can't use time because time doesn't exist. Oh, that's deep. Frame doesn't exist. No, frame exists. Frames basically are time. Of course they are. They're a constant. So I'm going to get rid of this. I don't want any of that just yet. I don't need that. What I want in here is I want frame, like this. So if I press that, and there's our expression, you'll see the dreidel is kind of moving. And you can see it's spinning like this, and it's spinning really fast. But I'm only going up to frame 60. This is going in degrees, surely? No. You'll see that that says 3,438 because that's an Euler rotation. So it's taking the 60 degree, what it thinks is radians, and saying it's an Euler. So I'm going to give really stupidly high values back. So we need to make sure that it recognizes it as a radian. So what we do here is we go up to the front and we type in radians, and then we put an open bracket there, we put a closed bracket there, and then we hit return. And now when I push this forwards in the time frame, it's like mega slow. But if I am on frame 180 or 179, that's 179. It's working out that it's actually radians, and that's much easier for us to understand and control. Okay, I hope you got all that. Don't worry. The great thing about videos is you can rewind them and play them over and over again. No one does that with mine. Nobody does that with mine. Merry Christmas to you all. So this is now spinning, but again, that value is now too small. So I'm going to go open the driver editor, and I'm going to multiply this up. So it's radians times over frame. But I don't want to keep doing this every single time, do I? No, I don't. So what I can do is I can click in here, and I can see it in there. So if I put times 30, and then hit enter on my keypad, you'll notice that that is now on 215, and that's now on 6,450. So now we can see, ooh, that's spinning. That's actually spinning a lot faster than it looks. So if I push this forward one frame, if I go that, so I push this forward one frame, that's currently on 210. If I spin that, that's now on 240. So that is actually going 30 degrees each time because we're multiplying it by 30. Now, if we go back in here and we multiply that by, let's give a slightly different number. I'm going to say 48.2, just for randomness. That will always feel a little bit better. That's actually going too fast, but it's going far too fast. Let's make that 36.4. I'm just making it so it's not a perfect number. That's got a good spin speed on it, you know, and you can see there's actually in the stick there's a little bit of wibble, which means I actually have got my modeling a little bit off, but that's nice because it gives it a little bit of reality, which is even better. I'm going to very quickly save this. At this point in the past, it crashed. Yeah, so we don't want that to happen. So now we've got that, and now I've got my wobble. Now what I want to do with the wobble is I want to put a little bit, as I say, of rotation in the X and the Y. So I'm going to go back to my first frame, and we'll only do 10 seconds of this. Got my first frame, and I'm going to go insert a keyframe. So I've got keyframes there. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to change this to the graph editor so we can see it. Now notice, as I said, the F curve is there, the modifiers are there, the view is there. There are no drivers. They should be in there all the time. So I'm going to push this down to here because we're in wobble, looks like wobble action, and the Euler, that one there, we don't need that one to actually be doing anything, that Z one. I'm going to see if I can remove, delete single keyframe. There we go, right. Okay, so we have that one and we have this one. Now, we have one keyframe, and the reason why we have one keyframe is because we're going to do this with modifiers. And we're going to put some noise in there. So if I play this now, oh, that's going to wobble in like crazy, but we don't want it quite that strong. We don't want it quite that much. So what it's done is it's taken that X channel and it's putting a lot of noise in. So we can scale that. Oh dear. We can scale that up. So it's like a much wider animation. And we can reduce the strength to something a lot smaller. So when we play it now, it's sort of like, whoa, you see, it's got a bit of a wibbly wobbly feel in it. And that's kind of nice. That's kind of because it feels a bit more as it would do. Let's change that to 0.2 on the scale on the strength, and let's put the scale actually to about 30. So it's even more sort of like, that's kind of nice. And we're going to do the same to the Y one. So let's go to the Y one, add a modifier, add noise, and again it's the same as the last one. We don't want it to be the same as the last one, so let's set the scale to 30 and the strength to 0.2, and oh, hold on, yeah, and then let's offset it so it's not the same. And even now, let's just phase it a bit as well. So it's just different. So when we run these two now, we've got a little bit of spin, and it's like, oh, I'm just kind of, I could fall over at any moment. I I could fall over at any moment. And then we can go File, and we're just going to go Save. And now we're on the transform one. Now this is where we do our hand animating, because why not? I could in fact do it by noise. Shall I try and do it by noise? I'm going to do it by noise. I might as well. I do love the noise control. I do like to hand animate though as well. I think sometimes when you do things like this, you might want to move around an object. Like if there was, you know, a bunch of like say candy here or wherever there, and you wanted it to like go towards it, and there's maybe knock something. You can hand animate it to go and knock it, but you've still got that sort of like mechanical maths that you've put in for the wobble and the spin, and that's already there. Anyway, so let's do what I said. Let's just do that. Let's actually just animate it with noise. So I'm going to go here to the X, and I'm going to insert keyframe, and let's go into the Z. I'm going to delete that single keyframe there. So X and Y, and remember we have to have that one keyframe, otherwise we can't get the animated noise in there. So if I just play this now, you'll see it's kind of shifting like a stupid thing. So I'm going to go down to the X, and I'm going to scale this up, and I'm going to increase the strength so it goes a bit more over the place, and I'm going to increase the scale as well. Let's offset it back a little bit. For some reason I felt like offsetting it back, so it's now whoa wee wow woo, and you can see it's moving far too much. 50, let's try that. Just it's going everywhere. Let's set the strength to about 10. Okay, and let's do the same with the Y rotation. So let's add a modifier noise, set that to 60 because it's different, and the strength, let's move that to about there, and let's offset this so it's, I don't want these really curves in the same places, but if we can get them slightly offset from each other, you'll end up getting some nice animation arcs. So let's just move this and have a little look. There you go. Oh, look at that. And I would actually like my, actually now I'm looking at, I would like my wobble to be a bit stronger. Let's push that up, and let's push that one. Oh, too far maybe. There we go. So we're gonna. Oh, that's nuts, isn't it? I love that. Let's bring down the scale of, no, let's leave the scale as it is. Let's bring down the strength of that. Oh, bring that one a bit, and do the same with that. Let's bring down the strength of this one a bit. There we go. Now let's try now. Now it's got a kind of a, where am I going? That's nice. That's really nice. There you go. We've got a nice little spinning dreidel. And if I can, let's get it to a frame. Let's see how this looks with motion blur. Yeah, let's just save that. And let's go to our rendering. In fact, let's go to shading, because if looking at this in shaded mode might actually be quite nice. I'm just gonna, where is my super suit? Let's change the light, and let's change it to a sunlight, and let's get rid of these. Let's put this in here. Oh, that's far too bright, isn't it? Put that to there, and I'm gonna get an animation. In fact, I just press the space bar, and you can see there it is. It's moving around. It is still a little bit balmy, but it's definitely spinning. That's lovely. But you see, the thing is there, the joy is there. You've got the maths doing it all for you. If all you were doing was just wanting one of these to be spinning on a table as you're going past, you haven't got to animate it. It's all just been done by noise. That's it. That's it. It's great. Yes, I find myself nicely happy with that. Let's turn off that, and let's press play again. And that's a nice. Ooh, that's nice. And then if we just do, I go to our render settings, and we want motion blur, and I'm going to set the max blur to 64 pixels. Let's get some proper ones, and I'm gonna move this. Where were we? So just there we go, and let's say to there, that point there. And let's see what we get if we hit F12. Look at that. Look at that. You can see the blur. Let's just see. That's slot 1. Let's go to slot 2. Let's change it to cycles and make sure we have motion blur set to that. And let's press F12 again. See what we get this time. I actually think with the samples working in that one, I think that's actually working better. I think it's a bit prettier. I'm just going to stop that from rendering, change that from CPU to GPU compute. It may not be the strongest computer in the world, but it is definitely faster than the GPU, is definitely faster than the CPU. And There we go. 22 samples, 38 samples. That's a lot quicker. Look at that. That's really nice. And so you can really see what that motion blur is doing there. That's great. So if we actually were to texture that up and put 3-4 symbols on the sides, put the right ones on, don't get them wrong, Gary, and then we could see some really nice funkiness, because they're also different colours, so we get some nice stuff going on. Right, I'm going to stop that from rendering. That's almost finished anyway. Listen, I hope this has been of some good to you. I hope it's been of some use to you. It's a little bit of everything, a little bit of modelling, a little animation, a little bit of the drivers. You can do, I mean, I've only been doing this for 45 minutes. I don't think there's maybe a little bit of editing I've got to do in this. Not a huge amount, I don't think. But there's been quite a bit in there, but at the same time, not a huge amount. And I'd like to think that this is, at least, if nothing else, seasonal. Merry seasonal happy greetings of the Christmas everything. Whatever. As I say, I have to. It's the one thing one has to be is religious agnostic when it comes to doing this sort of thing, which is why I'm doing a dreidel. And also, when I thought I'll do a dreidel spinning. That's what I'll do. I'll do a spinning top, and then I thought, no, I won't. I'll do a dreidel, and then I realised I don't even know what a dreidel is. I know it's a spinning top, but what's it for? And I found its game. Just sounds brilliant. It's just such a simple game, but it's enough to get. It's like Uno. It's great. It's not difficult, and it's great fun. So honestly, I think everyone should do this. I mean, it doesn't have to be a religion for you to enjoy it, does it? It's just a game, but it's a great game. Right. So maybe I faff too much. I think I faff too much. I'll probably have put in a piece of text right now that says, "This man faffs too much." Have a wonderful beginning of your December. I've been enjoying mine so far. And I hope you're all looking forward to the holidays. I'm desperate for a holiday now. I'm so looking forward to getting stuff done, so I can just say, right, goodbye to everything, and then just go and sit in a room and fill my face with chocolate and drink brandy and say ho, ho, ho. That'll do. Okay, guys, see you, and I will speak to you in the next one. Bye, see, bye.